Listen to the JT Sports Podcast on all podcasting platforms and leave a 5-star review.
This was even more head-scratching, right? The Detroit Lions traded away TJ Hockenson. Now, I didn't know that the Detroit Lions had any intentions of giving up TJ Hockenson. But I'm not complaining because I have TJ Hockenson on all of my fantasy teams. He definitely is going to help elevate me to my championships with this trade going to Minnesota. Minnesota right now, their offense is fantastic. It's on fire. Irv Smith just got put on IR. So it makes sense for the Minnesota Vikings to go ahead with this trade. And I wonder, when Minnesota called Detroit, if Minnesota called Detroit first, I wonder if they were confident that Detroit was willing to trade them TJ Hockenson. Because, they do play in the same division. So I wonder if the general manager for Minnesota was kind of like, yeah, man, so, how's your day going? I wonder if they were just having a casual conversation. And then he was like, oh, man, Irv Smith, we just had to put him on injury reserve. TJ Hockenson, we would love to have him. We'll give you a second and a third round pick for him. What you say? And I guess Brian Holmes was just like, oh, yeah, that sounds good. Go ahead. Not realizing that he was giving up TJ Hockenson to his divisional rival. Now, if you're a Lions fan, you're probably looking at this trade saying, JT, why do you care? We got picks. And the Lions do receive pretty solid compensation. They get a second round pick for 2023's NFL draft and a third round selection in the 2024 NFL draft. And the Minnesota Vikings get TJ Hockenson, a 2023 fourth round selection and a 2024 fourth round selection. But even though the Detroit Lions do get picks, I still view this trade as a L. Because it's like, why does Detroit, already at this point of the season, why are they already shipping off key pieces of their team? And you can say, well, JT, TJ Hockenson, outside of that big game he had against Seattle, he didn't really do much. Okay, but this is still somebody who is a key cog in your offense. And he has been more involved over the last couple of weeks. So I don't really understand why just trade him away, especially at this point in the season with Detroit if they are trying to compete for a playoff spot. And it's just really disappointing. And maybe I'm just a little bit naive because I would like to think that Detroit at the midway point of the season isn't already trying to throw in the bag. Because that is just so sad for Detroit Lions fans. Because Detroit Lions fans are some of the most passionate fans in the NFL. And this is probably one of the most underrated fan bases in the NFL. I am surprised every time I come on this platform and I find a new Detroit Lions YouTube channel. And it's just so disheartening to see what this fan base gets put through. Brad Holmes, why would you trade one of your key players to your rival? That makes no sense at all. I would like to think, some franchises can't be sorry forever. But I'm really starting to think that the Detroit Lions may suck for the rest of our lives. Because decisions like this are why the Lions are where they are as a franchise right now. TJ Hockenson is going to do some great things with the Vikings. You see what their offense has done so far. And plus, he's an upgrade over Irv Smith. And Irv Smith has pretty much been a letdown up to this point. He hasn't really been able to stay on the field. And he's kind of struggled to find his footing in the league. So you bring in TJ Hockenson and you pair him up with Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. This Minnesota Vikings passing attack is probably the best in the league right now. and you couple that with the fact that they have Dalvin Cook and Alexander Mattison, I think that the Minnesota Vikings may end up giving the Philadelphia Eagles a legitimate run for their money, and we're not talking enough about Minnesota. And yes, they do have a first-year head coach in Kevin O'Connell, and I can't recall the last time a first-year head coach has made it to a Super Bowl, but damn, the Minnesota Vikings right now have a really good team. And for the Detroit Lions, it's really weird that we're at the midway point and we're talking about the NFL draft, which is several months ahead, and we're in November. And we do this almost every single year when it comes to Detroit Lions. Ever since the Detroit Lions fired Jim Caldwell, because remember, 9-7 wasn't good enough. Every single year since then, by the midway point of the NFL season, we're talking about what should the Lions do in next year's NFL draft. And we're in November, guys. Remember this. We're in November. And by the midway point, Detroit Lions fans are already looking at what the team should do in the draft. Really, really disappointing. And that tells you everything you need to know about what the Detroit Lions have been as an organization for over the span of decades. Bad decision making, stupid trades. I mean, why would you trade TJ Hockenson to a team in your division? I would like to believe that there were other teams out there outside of this division that were willing to give up a second and a third round pick for a guy who is a top 5, top 10 tight end in the league right now, when healthy and when used effectively. I mean, they just gave TJ Hockenson to Kevin O'Connell. Did you see what did Brad Holmes not see what the Minnesota Vikings currently have on their roster right now? Like, does he not see? I know he goes to the games. Does he not see that they already had Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen and Dalvin Cook? So I guess he just said, damn, let's just go ahead and make an already good team an even better team inside our division. I feel so bad for Lions fans. And if you're a Lions fan, you know this trade is an L. You can look at it from any angle and say you got draft picks, but you could have got this same compensation, I'm pretty sure, from another team. Now, Brad Holmes comes out and he says that the Minnesota Vikings offered the most. I still think this trade is an L for you. I still think it's better to not make teams in your division stronger and trade some of your best assets outside the conference so they don't end up biting you in the butt. Because Minnesota's going to retain TJ Hockenson. They're going to keep him. And TJ Hockenson could end up biting the Detroit Lions in the butt. What if 2 years down the line, the Detroit Lions are in a must-win game, week 17, and they need to win this game to get into the playoffs, and TJ Hockenson scores a game-winning touchdown and ends their season? Imagine that happens. Everybody's going to be looking at Brad Holmes if he still is the general manager, and we're just going to be like, damn, bro, what was wrong with you? What was going through your head when you made this trade?